Hey, Jim Dunaway from the next round. We're ready to relive the weekend in Southeastern Conference football with our friends at Cowin Equipment. We're fired up for another year. Before we look back, though, let me remind you, our friends at Cowin Equipment would love the opportunity to partner with your company for your heavy equipment needs. Visit Cowin.com to find out more about how Cowin can be your heavy equipment solution, from rental and new equipment sales to great service and parts. Check out Cowin Equipment's rental fleet hit list for a wide range of well-maintained equipment from their rental fleet for sale right now. Go to the website, Cowin.com, Cowin.com. Now let's talk a little football. But we start with the Iron Bowl, the actual game on the field where Alabama wins their third straight over the Auburn Tigers in a rain-filled second half, and a game where Bryce Young, in his final game ever at Bryant-Denny Stadium, was Bryce Young again.
Yeah, I mean, Bryce was really good, 20 of 30, 343 yards. He had the 3 touchdowns. He had a rushing touchdown. And one thing you noticed was, again, Alabama receivers not getting a lot of separation.
Oh, yeah. Sitting there, and Brown was at the game as well. You watch that team, and they don't get a lot of separation, but Bryce had to throw it to 9 different receivers. 6 of them had 2 or more catches in the game. It was, again, Bryce Young having to spread it out to a fleet of guys who were trying to get open.
And Auburn didn't really know how to defend him either. I mean, Auburn tried a lot of things. There was one play. It was funny. You and I were talking with Stan White after the game. He noticed the same thing because kind of the angle we had, Stan was sitting not far from us in the Auburn radio booth. The angle we had, you could see it very well. There's a defender unblocked out kind of in the flat, and he's almost guarding Bryce Young like it's basketball. He's not rushing him because they didn't want to rush him, but then he's just kind of standing in this empty space. He's not guarding any receiver. I mean, I think Auburn struggled to figure out what to do with Bryce Young, and I think we've seen enough this year to know, basically, if you can't rush him up the middle and get in his face in the middle, he's kind of hard to affect.
Yeah, right up the middle there.
Yeah.
343 passing, 48 rushing, 4 touchdowns for Bryce Young. And Alabama wins the game, 49-27. Some reaction from the locker room we'll get to as we go here. Coaching search and more basketball in a second. But let's start, Rockshar, with cut number 1. Nick Saban afterwards. LT and I were just talking about this. And I still say there's no path to the playoffs for Alabama.
I think you're wrong.
I just don't think Alabama can get in.
You're wrong. I don't think they deserve to. I'm not even sure I want to see them do it, but there is a path for Alabama. You're wrong.
It's simple. 2 teams lose, they're in. It's 100%.
I believe we go to the weekend. Georgia, Michigan, does not matter what they do.
I don't even think it matters for TCU. I think TCU's in.
Well, I do too. So there's only 4. So if USC loses, you don't put Ohio State in over Alabama?
I don't know that it's a slam dunk.
1 loss, Ohio State.
1 blowout loss on your own field, Ohio State.
It's not a slam dunk that TCU's in with a loss.
I'm not going to say it's a slam dunk, but I think they're in pretty good shape.
Too many close games.
Yeah, but I mean, who are you going to put in? Well, we can say this.
I mean, I think Alabama and Ohio State are in if TCU and USC lose.
But Nick Saban gets asked about it on the field by Jenny Dale, and then again afterwards about Alabama and a path to the playoffs. And Nick Saban has this to say.
I was really proud of our team this whole season, actually, to win 10 games, to go through a rough patch when Bryce was hurt. Now he's healthy again, which makes us a different kind of team, I think. You know, it's a great win to win in the Iron Bowl for our players. It's great that they won 10 games, but I think one of the things that I'm most proud of is the fact that when everybody thought they were out of it, and there was a lot of naysayers out there, that this team didn't give up on themselves. They didn't give up on each other. They kept fighting and won some tough games to finish the season. It's a great opportunity for our team to be considered. I think we lost 2 games on the road against 2 top 10 teams by 4 points. So we are a good football team, and hopefully people will recognize that.
Auburn is still searching for a coach. Some small factions, some would still like Carnell Williams to represent his school, his program. It was a love fest for the final month of the season with what Carnell brought to the Auburn family. Cut number 2, Rockstar, Carnell Williams, after the loss to Alabama over the weekend. So they lose the game 49-27, and Carnell Williams, presumably his coaching career as the head coach at Auburn is over for the time being. He had this to say in the Bryant-Denny Stadium visiting locker room afterwards.
It's just powerful what you can do whenever you get people believing, serving, not making it about each other. That is what I told players, staff was, I know how many games we were going to win, and honestly, quite frankly, it's harsh to say it didn't really matter, but it did. I seen kids that was broken. I seen kids that needed help, an opportunity to get to serve them and see how, wow, they have opened their heart, how they done did it 360, how they back believing. A lot of cool things in this 4 weeks that happened.
Yeah, a lot of cool things for Cornell Williams and for the Auburn folks, but they're still searching for a coach today. And that was a twist after our show on Friday. Lane Kiffin, who doubled down on the reporter who had reported earlier in the week that it was going to happen on Friday. It didn't happen on Friday, and Lane continued to blast him on social media and any opportunity he got. Forrester pulling it up, doing your job right and professional, John Sokoloff, he said. As Chris Lowe reports, Lane Kiffin has reiterated to Ole Miss football officials and staff that he is going to remain the Rebels head coach. First, before we continue on Auburn, Lane Kiffin did burn some bridges in Oxford, though, but they've got to be happy they kept him.
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately he did. I guess they're happy they kept him. I mean, if I'm a Ole Miss fan, I'm pretty pissed at him for the last 2 weeks of the season when he allowed this to hang out there and seemed to be more focused on funny tweets than coaching football.
Yeah, three-game losing streak while you were on social media a lot.
And one of them I can stomach. I mean, nothing, there was nothing really going on in that Bama game. And look, it is Alabama. You lost to them at home. You played them tight. But I can't stomach what happened at Arkansas, and I can't stomach what happened in the second half of the Egg Bowl.
Yeah, look, I agree. And I think you made the analogy that it's like when you get caught cheating, things are never going to be the same. I think that's Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss. I think if he wins 11 games next year and goes to an SEC championship game, I think all is forgiven. But he pulls another 8-4, people are going to start to say, Lane cares more about social media than he cares about football, which I've kind of always said.
And according to other reports, Auburn turned its focus to Hugh Freeze. Here's what Hugh Freeze told the gathered media after his Liberty team lost to New Mexico State.
I've communicated with Ian. If someone ever wanted to talk to us that interests us, I would always tell him. And is the job that everyone's talking about one that I would have an interest in of talking with? Sure. Does that mean that doesn't mean they have not offered me a job? And who knows where that's headed, but I've always said I love being here on the mountain. I'm happy here, but I'm not going to sit and say to our kids or somebody, that's just absolutely false. There's no interest in it. But the part that is false is there's been no offer made to me, and nor have I accepted anything. And I think that's what our kids came in the locker room kind of feeling.
Yeah, so Brown, to set that up, you were telling me the story on Saturday that the Liberty players confronted him.
They did. They confronted him in the locker room before the game because this story started leaking out from Pete Thamel once Lane Kiffin moved on that Auburn had been in deep talks with Hugh Freeze for 3 weeks, is what Thamel reported.
Yeah, on game day, which a lot of people watch.
That's right, yeah. A few people watch game day.
By the way, for the record, in those 3 weeks, they lost 3 consecutive games. To UConn, to Virginia Tech, and as a 25-point favorite to New Mexico State. They lost by 35. I don't think I've ever seen a 60-point swing like that.
49-14 was the final.
And they were how big of a favorite?
They were a 25-point favorite, and they lost by 35.
So when we joke about franning it up.
Yeah, we may have to change the name.
Freezing it up.
Freezing it out.
Freezing it out.
Is there a chance the roommate becomes former roommate if USC and Georgia end up playing each other and you guys are watching in the lower gym? Will you guys have to watch in separate room? One is roommate is a Georgia grad. LT is a lifelong USC fan.
Is that going to be a tough watch?
Well, here's the way I figure it would work. You guys tell me if I'm wrong. Georgia's obviously going to be the number 1 seed unless Michigan wins and Georgia loses.
I would personally have Michigan in front of Georgia. I would, but I don't think
But you don't think they will be.
More on that on Tuesday, but yes.
But
yeah,
I
that's a great
believe
point.
Georgia would be 1. If USC wins Friday night, there's a good chance they're 4. So that game will be in Atlanta. So we'll probably go to that game.
Yeah, I would imagine you're saying Michigan has a better resume at this point, better win.
They got a better win for sure. I mean, I think the Michigan-Ohio State win's the best win of the college football season. It's hard to argue that one. And Georgia, frankly, has kind of sleptwalked through the last 2 weeks. So, I mean, I would have no problem with them putting Michigan number 1. It's irrelevant.
But Michigan sleptwalked 2 weeks ago.
This just in. We are talking exactly about Georgia the way we used to talk about Nick Saban's Alabama teams all the time.
That's good for Georgia then.
Yeah. Oh, they beat Georgia Tech, a rivalry game. They didn't beat them like I thought they were going to beat them, though.
Well, they didn't.
That's what we're saying.
But again, it doesn't matter. I mean, if you're a 1 or a 2 seed, what's it matter?
It doesn't. Location.
But you guys do agree that Georgia's going to play in Atlanta. And more than likely, USC would be the 4 seed if they win.
If Michigan is the 1 seed and has the choice, I think they would probably play in Atlanta if they're the 1 seed. But Georgia's
where's your other location?
Phoenix. Yeah. And I just could see Jim Harbaugh just doing it to screw with
Kirby hit the road.
Jim Harbaugh doesn't really care where they play, but he's like, would Kirby want to play in Atlanta? Yeah, then we'll pick Atlanta. Yeah. I mean, that's the way Harbaugh is.
Well, just
again, I don't think this is going to happen.
If we got to travel, you got to travel.
That's right, yeah. Because,
I
mean, what's the difference from Ann Arbor to Atlanta or to Phoenix? What's it matter? Yeah. You know, it's all the same to them.
Their fans are going to go regardless.
That's right, yeah.
Let's make them spend a dime or two.
Yeah.
Maybe it lightens the load a little bit in Los Angeles of Georgia fans.
That's right. So who knows? I mean, again, I think Georgia's going to be the 1 seed, so they'll have the choice. They'll play in Atlanta.
Yeah, not even close.
Can you believe? I mean, name me a team that has had a bigger impact on the college football playoff than South Carolina.
Well, these last 2 weeks, they've
eliminated 2 teams.
Yeah,
I don't know anybody else has done that this year.
Yeah, unfortunately for a lot of people, TCU. TCU's, well, I guess they haven't been eliminated. They've been dancing with the devil.
They've been dancing with the devil.
They haven't eliminated anybody.
South Carolina has outright eliminated 2 teams. I mean, Dunaway's right. Clemson will be right in the middle of this, the way everything else is shaking out.
Like, we were the feel-good story in college football last week, but nobody thought we were good enough to win this game. We were the team that just kind of caught lightning in a bottle last week, and no way they can come back and do it again. You know, I saw one of the commentators on ABC last night talking about how Clemson needs a really big win today and need the style points for the playoff. Like, Clemson needed the win. And the group we had coming in here was very confident. And I told them after we stunk it up in Gainesville 2 weeks ago, I told them in the locker room after the game, like, you have a chance these next 2 weeks to completely change everything with this program, the entire trajectory of this program and the outside narrative. And damn if they didn't. I mean, when we took care of business last week, it wasn't just, okay, we did it great. No, we planned on doing it 2 in a row, and we did.
Jimbo Fisher, still not bowl eligible. Top 10 team, losing record. Michigan State, top 25 team, losing record. Miami, top 25 team, losing record. 3 top 25 teams preseason. They don't get winning record, not even 500, a losing record. But Jimbo Fisher was a top 10 team. But they beat LSU, eliminating them from the college football playoffs, LSU, even if they win the SEC championship. Here's Jimbo Fisher after that big, big win.
Jimbo, I'm going to ask a question the whole country's asking. Where's that been all year?
Well, that's what I was saying. It's young guys and growing and developing, and it's there. It's what I said. It's going to be there. There's nothing wrong with what we're doing. It's how we got to do it and how we got to get the maturity out of them and what happens and execute what we got. And our kids just relaxed and played, and they grew up, and they matured, and there's a lot of, like I say, injuries and young guys all year. It's not an excuse, but that's the facts of life. And you see it. They could do it in streaks, couldn't do it at whole times. Then this game, we finally put it together for 60 minutes and played a really good game.
Did he save his job?
Well, I don't know, but I mean, that is vintage Jimbo right there using this game as a referendum on his system. Like, I told you it was going to work.
It only took
3
months.
All season long, when I may have been not starting the right quarterback the whole time, but I told you my system worked. I mean, you saw it there now, right?
Yeah, I don't think
I've been telling you all year.
One game can save your season.
The flip side of that, LSU could be playing this weekend with a chance to go to the college football playoffs, but it's a bad loss for them. And Brian Kelly afterwards was asked if his guys maybe were looking ahead a little bit to playing Georgia.
No, I don't think so. I just don't. I really can't put my finger on it. They've worked so hard all year. I think A&M played really well today. I thought their energy was great. I thought that their best players played at a high level. They made a lot of plays. But again, I've singled out this one particular play where we turned it over into a touchdown, and it was a big momentum change. The fact of the matter is, we had a great week of practice. The guys did a nice job all week. We probably, if I look at our preparation, it's that, 24 hours out, leading into the game, we needed more juice, more fire, and we just seem to lack that a little bit today, and that's on me.
But for LSU, you give them a chance this weekend at all?
No.
I don't either.
Yeah.
You think they stay inside the, what is it now?
19 and a half.
Yeah. Oh, I think they stay inside that.
Yeah. I mean, look, they've got to do better against the run. I mean, Georgia's got so many guys that can attack you on the ground. And, I mean, last week, A-Chain, 215. I mean, that's unacceptable.